This is Slam Hockey with your hosts, Peter Bojarinoff and Paul Swinbeck. Welcome to Jablam Hockey, folks. I'm your host, Peter Bojarinoff. You can find me on Twitter at Russian98, and I'm with
Paul Zwambag. You can find me on Twitter at Zwambag, ZWAMBAG. How's it going, everybody? Peter, what's up?
Not too much. Working a lot these days. You too?
No, not working at all.
You're busy. You're busy.
I'm busy doing stuff.
So tell us all about these dad ventures you're having, Paul.
What's
going on here?
I just hang out with my daughter, and we go out places.
You guys go some crazy places, eh?
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Go for picnics, go to the park?
Go to the bank, go to the post office. We went to the cottage this past week.
Yeah, the cottage.
I carry her everywhere in my little snuggly, and it's probably the best thing ever made. Because you can wear like a backpack, and she doesn't, like I wore her for a 2-hour walk the other day, and just walked around with her, and like not tired at all. It was awesome.
That's pretty good. You're not tired at all. Are you going in this heat that we have right now? This heat wave is ridiculous.
No, it was over the weekend. I was out.
Good.
Yeah, when it was nice out, not boiling hot.
Hard for me to keep up with my runs with the weather this hot.
That's too much.
I like going when it's like 18
information.
degrees. This is a little too hot for me right now. But you and your daughter, that's really cute. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. This episode, we're going to be talking about NHL free agency, all the big names. But before we get into that, trending now. Paul, you didn't hear about it. The AHL, they came out with some new rules here.
Yeah.
So this is pretty cool. I'll get into the first general stuff, and it's basically about fighting. Now they've instilled a new rule. 10 fights. After you've had 10 fights, you get a game misconduct. Every fight after those 10 fights, you get a game misconduct. Once you hit 14 fights, you get 2 game misconducts for every fight after. Intense, no?
Yeah, that's...
So guys like Rich Clune have come out and said, it's pretty good. I like this rule. You know, it kind of gets out the really, really crappy guys that are just goons.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Whereas there's guys that have some hockey skills, hockey sense, and can fight. This is fine. This is fine for them. So it's interesting. And we all know whatever happens in the AHL, you know, it's a testing field for the NHL. So there's a good chance something like this will probably go to the NHL in the near future. Maybe within next year or 2 years. We'll see how it goes. But this is interesting. They also get into, this is an actual direct quote for what the rules were stating. Players who enter into a fight prior to, at, or immediately following the drop of the puck for a face-off will be assessed an automatic game misconduct in addition to other penalties assessed. So you can't even fight just before or right after a face-off draw.
Yeah, so that whole talking at the hash marks is going to end. They'll have to wait and skate around a bit and meet each other somewhere on the ice and drop them.
I like that one a little more. That's the old meaningless fight stuff, right?
Yeah.
We don't mind the fights after a big play happening or they're just tempers are going, awry and then they fight. That's cool. The whole, puck drop fights just to fight for no reason, especially for those guys that feel that's their role.
Yeah, and the momentum swing, and I don't think it's a momentum swing whatsoever.
Sometimes it has. I remember, who was it for the Thrashers? Chris Thorburn. For some reason, I do remember watching some Thrashers games, and their team would wake up on the bench after one of those fights. So it's kind of odd, but it kind of works sometimes.
Well, I guess, happened with the Penguins in their 2009 Cup run, Max Talbot.
Yeah.
Getting in the fight with Philly and telling the fans to be quiet. Yeah, I guess there can be a momentum swing.
Sometimes it works, so I don't know. But again, you can still have those at the end of the shift or whatever else is going on, a little kerfuffle in front of net or in the corner.
So going back to the 10 penalty or 10 fights,
Yes.
and then you start getting misconducts. Guess how many players had 10 plus fights last year in the AHL?
In the AHL?
Yep.
Ooh, I'm gonna say 7 guys.
22 had
22.
10,
That's pretty
10
high.
or more. Yeah.
Wow. In the NHL, is I'm probably closer to it with the NHL.
Yeah.
So I thought it might be a little higher, but I wasn't sure. So
Number 1, Michael Liambis, 20 fights. That
Wow.
guy's going to miss a lot of hockey if he
well,
keeps
we
fighting.
already know about his history. So
Yeah.
wow. So yeah, and then also I do like this. They're also making coaches not giving them basically the timeout after icings. That's good.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
So, the tired players, no more timeout chances, so that's good. They'll maybe give a few teams more goals during the season, so that'll be good. What else is out there? Some big signings today, but first, some interesting news with Dave Cameron is now signed for the Flames as his assistant coach.
Yeah, under Glenn Gulutzin.
So that's an odd move in my opinion. I don't know.
Well, he didn't really do very well in Ottawa.
Yeah, so I guess he wants to take a little step back and then help out this organization, which is pretty young with what they're going with.
Pretty young. They finally got a goalie. They're making strides. They got a pretty good defense core. They got a chance to step up. That's probably a good move on Dave Cameron. He's going to look pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Pavel Datsyuk, who says he's basically going to play in the KHL for at least a couple years before the Olympics in 2018. He wants to step up because he wasn't that good last time around, and he feels he can make a big impact for them.
Well, you could read this 2 different ways, that the NHL guys aren't going to the Olympics as of right now. So is that his ploy so he can play in the Olympics, and maybe he thinks the NHL's not going to go?
I don't think so. I don't think that's what it is. He does like playing for his country, and he's getting a bit older, so didn't want to finish his career playing in the NHL. I think at least going back home. A lot of players have done that. A lot of Russian players have done that. Go back home, finish their careers.
Yeah, and then they loaded off its contract to Arizona and then made huge signings.
Yeah.
At free agency.
We're going to talk about that. Franz Nielsen and stuff. Interesting moves. The signings today that we know is the most recent ones. Palmieri, 5 years, $4.65 million per year. After just one good year?
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow, that's a lot of cash. 5 years too.
Yeah, I guess
it's weird seeing these teams put a lot of faith in guys that have just one good year or one good playoff. Like I said, the Cam Ward contract, he pretty much, even the new one, it's all based off that one good playoff run for him, and they won the Stanley Cup because of it.
Yeah.
Palmieri gets this contract off one really good year.
Yeah, I don't get the long term. Pay him 4.6, but make it like a 2-year.
Yeah.
So you can get out of it if he is a flop. I just don't understand the length of some contracts.
Yeah, well, if he keeps on getting first line minutes, ice time, and everything, he's gonna have a good chance to at least get the 25 goal mark. And
playing with Hall or Zajac or Camilleri, he's got a bunch of guys he can play with. New Jersey's starting to put it together, I think. Still won't be very offensive, but they'll have one good line probably.
Yeah. And now Canucks lock up Markstrom, 3 years, 3.67. So he's what? The backup right now? And they've got one more year left with Ryan Miller, right? And does that make him the starter in the following year?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
So, interesting. He didn't put up that great numbers this year, too. He has potential to be a good player, good goaltender. But I don't know. I still don't see that yet. out of him.
Yeah, and if Thatcher Denko ends up being as good as he is, then they can at least have Markstrom be a backup without being too expensive.
Mm-hmm. They could
Like
be
that-
50-50
Yeah.
for 2 years,
And
maybe.
I think the 50-50 is coming this year too with Miller and Markstrom. I think that's just
Yeah.
a given.
All right, let's go to the big names. It exploded. Free agency exploded as soon as it was possible. There was so many signings, especially within that first hour. Names were going left, right, and center. Detroit. They just went out and signed a lot of guys within like the first 20 minutes. Darren Helm got re-signed. Marchenko. They picked up Nilsson. And then they picked up a few more guys later on. I think it was like Tutu with the Wings. It seems a little odd.
Yeah. They don't normally spend a lot at free agency. They normally get one guy maybe, but yeah, they spent a lot of money on free agency day.
So, before we get into what Detroit did, let's talk about the big five. Kyle Okposo. We expected him to have the biggest deal, and he basically did. $6 million for 7 years with the Buffalo Sabres. Then Milan Lucic signs with the Oilers. That's what we expected to happen. $6 million, 7 years. Andrew Ladd, 5.5, 7 years with the Isles. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Eriksson, $6 million, 7 years with the Canucks. What direction are they going?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then Backus, $6 million, 5 years with the Bruins. Those were the big five, basically, and they all happened pretty quickly. What do you think out of the five was the best deal? It's hard to say, just because how good are they? They're all pretty long, right?
Yeah, they're all long.
They're all long. So let's throw that out the window, because they're all, in both of our opinions, they're a little too long. Like, even Backus, because the way he plays, 5 years is a little too long, right?
Yeah, and he's already 33, 32.
So, yeah, he's already up there. So we're comparing them, not years, but with that contract, that hit, which team made the best deal? What do you think, Paul?
I think the Oilers lucked and worked out the best with Lucic. I think that's going to... They needed a little bit more toughness to play with those young guys. And moving out Hall, they were able to pick this up. And people were saying, well, you could have had Lucic and Hall. And it's like, no, because they still need a big defenseman.
Yep.
Like, they got Adam Larson, but I think they still need another piece on the defense.
Exactly.
But I think this helps their toughness in the West. They needed that toughness, and now they've gone out and got it. And he can still put up points. He can flank Connor McDavid for 7 years and probably live up to his $6 million.
Yeah, he'll still probably put 25 goals.
Yeah.
Or more.
And even if he doesn't, he's just a big guy that's going to protect McDavid. Right? So I think they lucked out the best. I really
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking too. Lucic, he provides leadership, how far he's gone in the playoffs on a couple of teams now. The physicality and intimidating qualities which the Edmonton Oilers lack. This is what they lack, and they went out and they got it. So that's why this is the best move. Obviously, maybe the cap hit's a little high. Obviously, the length is a little too long. But this is what they need right now for all the youth and not so intimidating players that they have.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, in my opinion as well, I think Eriksson contract is maybe the worst out of the five. Just that, where are the Canucks going? Right? Are they rebuilding? I guess not. I guess they feel that the kids that they have will be the next core. Are they good enough to be the next core of a contending team? I don't feel so. And then we have the Sedins that are aging, and now they pick up Eriksson, who's past his prime, and he can score, but That's pretty much all he's bringing to the team. So that's putting them more again in that little area in the middle of just missing out of the playoffs, but not good enough to get, a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
It's making them mediocre, and that's not how you make changes. If you're going to make changes, you make drastic changes. You change the core of the team and get better, or you rebuild. And this is just middling. They seem lost.
Yeah, Jim Benning is just making a mess of that team.
Oh, well.
I don't like the David Backes contract. I think that's way too much money, way too long.
That's another player who has just come off an amazing playoff run. He was the best on the Blues. He outplayed Tarasenko. You expect Tarasenko to be the big scoring guy. But Backes had almost as many points, and he had the big clutch goals. And that gave him this contract that he was able to sign. And I bet you there would have been other teams that would have give him something similar because of what he played in the playoffs. But he was never that good in the playoffs until this current playoff. So that gave him this contract. I don't know. He is a Bruins type player the way he plays, right?
Yeah.
Big bad Bruin
Yeah.
action. But I don't know where he's going to fit into that lineup, so it is a little odd.
He's going to have to move to the wing.
Yeah.
Because he's not getting time over Bergeron or Krejci.
Exactly.
And you're not paying a third line guy $6 million. That just won't happen. So he's probably going to move to the right wing, I'm guessing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he plays there. On the wing with the Bruins, what they've got. I don't know. That's an interesting contract as well. Like, where are they going with this? Char's not getting any younger, that's for sure.
No.
And what? They bought out Seidenberg, right?
Yeah, they did.
I don't know. These younger defensemen that they have, the Millers and the other Miller, are they ready to step up? I don't see that happening.
No. Well, and they didn't want to pay Lucic the amount he wanted, and now he's making the same as Backes.
Yeah.
Just 2 years less. Big mistake.
Yeah, I'd rather have Lucic than Backes.
Yeah, definitely.
Very odd. So, the Bruins lose Eriksson, some goal scoring, for a grittier Backes, who we don't know how long he'll last as well the way he plays, too. Again, a sideways move, right?
Yeah.
Now we're going to the other two big names that we haven't mentioned yet, Okposo and Ladd. So the Isles don't sign Okposo. They're losing offense. They just came off a playoff where all their offense came from Tavares. Once Tavares disappeared in the second round, they had no depth to score on offense. Okposo was their second main scorer. They lose him, and they sign Ladd?
Yeah.
For what, $500,000 less? The same length of a contract. Did they need leadership on this team? I don't think so.
No.
I thought they played pretty good.
Yeah.
For what they had. It doesn't seem like they need a leader to step up their game. Other than maybe Tavares not playing as amazing as he did in the first round. So that's an odd move.
So did you watch the free agency live, right?
Not so much,
it?
actually.
You didn't actually? I wonder if Okposo signed with the Sabres and then the Islanders went and got Ladd. Wonder if that happened. So they're like, no, we don't want to pay Okposo that much, and then, or offered them, maybe they offered Okposo 5.5, and Okposo found something else. And then they were like, well, now we got to replace him. He's gone. So now we got to go out and get Ladd. Maybe the option of re-signing Okposo wasn't there. Right?
You know what? It seemed like he did want to leave.
Yeah.
It seemed like he didn't like maybe the area or the team or something like that.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that was happening over the last year and a half. So I think he made up his mind that he was going somewhere.
Yeah, so as much as we say they could have just paid an extra $500,000 to Okposo, I don't think that works out.
Yeah,
some
exactly.
cases.
But in my opinion, backing up with Ladd, didn't make any sense in my opinion.
Well, I guess they figured they needed a winger badly, but
They lost Nielsen as well, so
yeah,
they lost basically two of their top, 3-4 goal scorers on their team.
yeah, and this just pushes Ryan Strome down, or maybe Ryan Strome still gets the number one wing spot, or I don't know. Maybe they leave him at center. I think they got a lot of young kids coming up that
They do.
could play
And
well. So
that's what they're counting on.
this is stunting their growth big time.
Well, we'll see how much the other guys play. And Matt Martin's gone, right?
Yeah.
And then Grabowski doesn't play as much. He gets injured easily. And his contract is almost over. So there's going to be still a fair bit of ice time to fight for in there in Brooklyn. So, interesting. And so Pozo was the biggest name, and he signs with the Sabres. Does this put them into the playoffs now?
They will fight for that last spot, if at all. I don't know if it makes them a playoff team yet. Leonard is still such a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they went out and got a better backup than Anders Nilsson, like a veteran backup,
Yeah.
I think it would have been all right. But I still think they got to work out that goalie situation.
He was still pretty good when he played, but he was injured.
Yeah, so you can't really rely on an injury-prone goalie.
Interesting. So we will have a special episode right before the season starts where we analyze the lineups. A lineup episode before the season starts. But let's get into the other free agents out there. I called it. Eric Stahl signs with the Wild. $3.5 million, 3 years. Is this the steal of free agency?
No, I think he's lost a step, so I think he's making what he should be making.
Okay, but he looks like he'll probably be like the third line center. Won't he excel in that role?
Yeah, who are you putting center above him? Koivu and Coyle?
Yeah,
Or Mikael Granlund? Maybe?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
if
he'll
he's
fight. He might get some second line minutes, but come playoff time, they might pick up another, forward, and he might be a good boost when he's needed to step up. I think he hasn't played in the playoffs in ages,
Yeah.
and that might light up a little lamp. If they get there, I think he'll be dangerous. We'll see, but I think so.
It's definitely not going to hurt them having him at $3.5 million. That's a pretty solid deal for him.
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. And that's what you should look for when you're going to free agency instead of just going out there and overpaying guys.
Yeah. Stay out of the top 5. That's a big key. Stay out of the top 5.
Stay out of the first day. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But like what we called as well, Brian Campbell goes back to the Hawks. $2 million. 1 year.
Solid contract for the Blackhawks.
I don't know if the Hawks keep on pulling this stuff out. This is ridiculous.
They got a great dressing room, so guys want to come back. That clearly is showed right here that Campbell wants to go back to Chicago.
This is a great fit. This is a fantastic fit. He knows everybody. He basically knows the system. And they need to ease off the big minutes from Keith. Campbell doesn't have to put the pressure of eating up the big minutes like he was in Florida. And he can just focus on more of an offensive game maybe. Playing on the second pairing with Lamerson maybe. Something like that. Not too many more minutes. But at least taking some big minutes off Keith. Seems like a great move for the Hawks.
Yeah, it slows down Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Puts him back down a pairing.
Yeah. They re-sign Roosevelt again for like what, 0.6?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
He could play that 6/7 role.
Yeah.
Wow. Another good move by the Hawks. And then the peculiar move, maybe one of the most, maybe the main one, is James Reimer. 5-year contract with the Panthers. They've already got a huge long contract with Luongo, but he's going there for 5 years. $3.4 million cap. That's That's maybe fine. Not a bad deal for both sides, but I don't know what this means. Does this mean Luongo's injured or something? Do they not trust him as a number one anymore? He did look shaky in some of those games in the first round. Maybe the games went too long. Maybe Luongo can't last too long because he was almost like wobbling or looked like he was, he needed a huge drink of water or something.
Yeah.
He looked drained.
I think the Panthers are going for it this year. I think they are pushing for the cup this year because if you think about it, they have Roberto Luongo as a no movement, so they have to protect him next year going into the expansion draft. James Reimer 3.4 is a solid goalie to draft.
Yeah.
Because all the other teams like the Fleury, like the Bishop, they're all going to be... They can get draft picks to keep those guys out, knowing they have James Reimer sitting there that they can just grab at 3.4. And that's a decent starting goalie or a 1B at 3.4. I'm calling it James Reimer is going to be a Las Vegas Black Knight or Black Ace or whatever they are.
Yeah.
He's going to play in Las Vegas in a year and a half.
So you're calling right now?
Yep.
All right. Well, could be. It'll be interesting.
Well, they can't protect him, so
yeah.
I don't know how they think they're going to hide him from the Las Vegas expansion draft.
Mm-hmm. Well, if he has a bad year, then what? He won't be taken.
True.
So that's...
But can you have that bad of a year as a backup goaltender or playing 30 games, 25 games? I guess you could, but Reimer's known for putting up the good numbers with little games played, so...
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk more about the Panthers as well in that lineup, special lineup show, because they have made a lot of changes. We have a lot of players to go through here, and their defense is like totally different now.
Yeah.
And then they went out and just locked up all their young forwards. Yeah, so they made a lot of interesting moves.
And their lineup is basically set. They don't have any more RFAs or UFAs. They're set.
All right, so the other interesting moves, and this is one I don't know, I didn't like it that much, but the Flames are going to say that they liked it. Troy Brouwer, $4.5 million for 4 years. And everybody's talking about, we didn't go for 7 years like those other teams. Still, I think that's a little high for Troy Brouwer. He played pretty well in the playoffs for the Blues, but he's not a second-line forward who's going to give you 25 goals, in my opinion.
No. So
that you don't sign him to that much of cap hitting. I don't know. That's a weird move. They're paying for grit. They're playing for a guy who's going to step it up maybe a little bit more in the playoffs. But they got to get there. How far are they going to get, Paul? You think the Flames are playoffs for sure?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe that 6-7 team?
Yeah, they could probably get the third Pacific spot if they played well, if Elliott plays well.
A lot of question marks. So their D was good 2 years ago, and not so great last year. So we'll see what happens. They do have good D. They just need to be consistent, and hopefully Brouwer helps them with a little consistency on both sides of the ice. And then the Wings do lock up Franz Nielsen 6 years, $5.25 million. He's never really scored that many goals. He had one season with over 20 goals.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money again for another guy who has only one season where he's been really good at scoring goals. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're expecting him to be a top 6 guy and score again way over 25 goals. Like, he was getting the ice time on the island. He was getting like first, second line minutes. He's getting power play time with Tavares. He could have put up more numbers, in my opinion. So I don't know about that move.
Yeah,
it's a move that you don't expect from Detroit.
Yeah.
They like him because he has that speed. and they have a good, young, fast team. So that's nice. But it's a little high, and it's a little interesting that they went out and did this.
Yeah, who's their 1-2 centerman going to be? Larkin and Nielsen? Maybe
Yeah,
Helm plays the wing?
I guess that's the plan. Since Satsuk's gone, and, Zetterberg, he's aging.
Yeah.
Weird. I like this deal. David Perron, 2-year contract, $3.75 million, back with the Blues. Perfect. That's how much you want to pay a guy who's going to be on your second line, and he's going to be able to score, 20 goals, maybe more, and give you a lot of that grit. Give you that, what you're missing, what you lost with Backes leaving.
And Brouwer.
Yeah. He's giving you what you need. So they have Perron coming back, and maybe Sabatka, right? From the KHL. Seems like he wants to come back to the NHL.
Yeah, maybe.
And his cap hit will probably be around that 2.7 mil. So I think they did pretty good. They didn't go out and spend. They lost guys that they couldn't resign, that wanted big deals and got them. And then they're replacing with guys that are similar. So that was a pretty good move. And if Sabatka comes back, should be fine. I don't know how much progression Sabatka's made in the KHL, but he still knows the system in that game. So that might be good. And then Montreal goes and signs Radulov.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they just traded one polarizing figure for another to come in there.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Yeah. They needed scoring. Well, I
Yeah.
guess they found that with Radulov. He's going to put up decent numbers. I just don't know. 1 year, good, low risk. Don't sign him to a long term because who knows if he takes off and goes back to KHL again. But I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work out for them. I really don't think it is.
It'll be interesting what happens with the Habs this year. Are they a playoff team? If Carey Price is 100%, they have to be. It's automatic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How good will Radulov be? He should be able to score 30 goals. It's a low-risk move, which is great. I think it's a good move, but it is a little interesting. A lot of people are being reminded of maybe Alex Semin, but in my opinion, Radulov is still near his prime.
Yeah, and a whole lot better than Semin, I believe.
Yes. I still think it's a good move.
Yeah, and I would be targeting Pacioretty in most of my fantasy leagues because he's going to be playing with Radulov. That's going to benefit him big time. I don't really know who their center will be. Maybe they'll put Galchenyuk up there. I don't like Plekanec as the number one, but he probably will start out there just because Therrien does that.
Galchenyuk needs more ice time. He has to be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So maybe Radulov and Galchenyuk together. Put those two together and put some grit on the wing. On the other side.
Andrew Shaw.
Well, that's kind of how he was used for the Hawks, right?
Yeah.
A good, strong 1-2 line with some grit, and Shaw gave that.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right, so some of the other big ones out there, we can go through it, but Jamie McGinn, pretty interesting. Arizona goes with Jamie McGinn. 3.3 for 3 years. That's a solid deal. He had a pretty good season last year.
Yeah, he played well once he moved to Anaheim. He played decent with Buffalo too, I guess, but yeah, I don't really see him doing very much.
Yeah.
But Arizona takes those guys and they become decent scorers because they need scorers.
And they're getting the ice time, so
yeah.
If you get the ice time, you're getting the power play time, you're going to put up points no matter what. You just need a few good players on the power play, and then the other guys can just fill in the rest. So St. Louis lose Elliott, but they put in Carter Hutton as their backup now behind Allen for $2.25 for 2 years.
Yeah, that's a decent backup behind Allen.
Solid move. San Jose goes and signs Schlemko for 4 years.
Yeah,
basically $2 million.
That was a lot, I find, for Schlemko. But
yeah, interesting. But again, with the cap hit, that's basically third pairing.
Yeah,
we'll see how he does there. They had a good season last year. They had a good run in the playoffs. And then he goes there. I guess he's maybe filling in for that spot that Pollock was, maybe on the third pairing. And the Leafs signed Pollock as a re-sign. That's interesting.
Yeah, and they'll go get a draft pick at trade deadline.
Yeah, well, they got 2 second-round picks for him, which is great.
There you go.
So if they can do that again, that's amazing. And again, the Leafs want a little more grit and toughness to go with all these kids that are going to be playing on this team next year. They went and signed Matt Martin. And you don't like that deal.
No, that's way too much for...
A little too much. But in my opinion, the Leafs aren't really in my... I don't think they're stressed up against the cap that much. And they're not contenders. They won't be in at least the first 3 years.
How are they not up against the cap? They're at 73.5. They're 5.5 over the cap.
Is that including Nathan Horton's long-term IR? And maybe some other guys? I don't know how they do it, but it seems like Lupul might be on the IR kind of thing. And of course, still Robida.
But still, the count on those guys is just not a good way to deal with your salary cap. Counting on that at the beginning of every year.
That's what's going to happen. So they still have at least all that as cap space, if you think about it. So it's actually, they still have a fair bit of room because they put those guys in long-term IR. Okay, but Matt Martin, I don't know. The funny thing will be to do is guess how many hits he'll have by the end of the season. Because everybody knows how much on the island they just kept on throwing out those hits numbers for all of them.
Yeah.
Clutterbuck, Matt Martin.
Yeah,
apparently they all have 500 hits.
Yeah, their official scorer likes to give every single bump a hit. So
Hamonic. The list goes on with how many guys that have over 250 hits per year.
And that's the thing. That a lot of Leaf fans are going to be like, oh, he's not even leading the league in hits anymore. And it's like, you got to remember he was playing on the island. Clutterbuck's probably going to be leading in hits just because it's the island.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully nobody harps on him for that. But I think a great signing was P.A. Parento going to the island.
Yeah, the Leafs actually wanted to re-sign him.
Yeah.
But I guess, they didn't want to pay him that much? I don't know.
Only 1.25.
It wasn't a big cap hit.
1.25.
Yeah. Michael Grabner got 1.6 going to the Rangers. And I still think PA is much better.
Yeah.
Offensively, on the power play, he knows what he's doing. He played well even with the kids in the last 2 months of the season. Parento. So, I don't know. I would have liked the Leafs to resign him. That cap hit's fine. And then Grabner's gone, which is fine. He was pretty good with his speed, but he couldn't score on all those breakaways he was having.
Yeah.
But again, he was all right on the penalty kill as well. So he's gone as well. And a contract I do like was Dallas locking up Hamhuis. 3.75 for 2 years. Good contract length. Cap hit's fine. He can play on the second pairing now for Dallas. It was a good move. They lost Goligoski, and they replaced him with a much cheaper option. Maybe not as much offense you're going to get out of Hamhuis now at his age, but he'll maybe slow down and solidify that D that they need back there. They even lost Demers, and he's one of the guys that went to Florida as well.
Yeah.
So they did need something, and at least he has a good cap hit, and they need the cap space to sign some of these younger guys. Who else did you like out there?
I think we covered most of them.
Most of them?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode. We're going to have another episode this week where we finish off with the other free agents. We're going to talk a little bit more about Florida because we haven't gotten into their signings with Smith, Trocheck, etc. And as well, we're going to talk about the RFAs that are out there, the ones that are being qualified, the ones that are going to arbitration, and also Paul will update us a little bit about maybe training camp.
Yeah,
How that's going with the rookies.
A couple updates from some teams, yeah.
A few things on there.